Good day, class. Thank God we are here again for another lesson. We thank God for His protection and for His kindness to us. In the last 2 weeks or 1 week, thereabout, we have looked at limited liability companies. We have looked at limited liability companies, and we have looked at the formation, how they came about, and we said a limited liability company can be divided into two major broad distinctions. We have the private, which we have dealt with, private limited liability company, which we had dealt with in the last episodes. Today, we want to quickly look at the public limited liability companies, which are normally referred to as joint stock company. In many textbooks, you find joint stock company. They may not say limited private. They just say, what's a joint stock company? A public limited liability company is referred to as a joint stock company. So in your examination, if you see joint stock company, all they're asking you to look at or think of or talk about is the public limited liability company. So what's a joint stock company or what's a public limited liability company? A public limited liability company can be defined as one which has its article, which by its article, I repeat, by its article. What do we mean by its article? The laws governing it allow the public to subscribe. What is subscribe? Buying shares in that company. Jig and Tom, different people who are interested can come into that company and subscribe, buy shares of that company. And the same thing, we said the private limited liability company is set up by at least 2 people. But the public limited liability company, I repeat, the public limited liability company has a minimum of 2 to infinity. To infinity. What do you mean by infinity? That is no maximum. It could be as many as 200, could be thousands scattered around the country, but they are subscribed to the company by buying shares from that company, and that's what qualifies them. And once you buy shares, you enjoy all the profits that you enjoy, part of the benefit and profits that the company can gain. And so that's the definition. Please take note. A minimum of seven people can form a joint stock company, and it has no number, infinity, as many as possible, as many. It has no limited number, and that's what distinguishes it from the private limited liability company. And another very important thing we must note is that by the law, forming a joint stock company, it allows easy transfer of its shares from one person to another. Another notable fact that you must note is that any public limited liability company will end its name with the word PLC. That is public limited. Once you see any company, you see UAC, PLC. Okay, it shows that this UAC company or UTC, PLC, or Zenith Bank, PLC. It shows that these are public limited liability company. So please note, any company that has at the end of its name PLC is referred to as a joint stock company. It has As many people can join. Even once you have your money, you can buy share. Once the share is floated, please take note of those key points, because in your objective questions, you find these simple things being asked. And so don't get caught. They give you various options, don't get caught. Any company that ends its name with PLC indicates, shows that it's a public limited liability company. Today we move further on to look at the features of a joint stock company. What are the features of? So we say 1, ownership. The joint stock company is owned by the shareholders. Once you have bought shares in that company, you are a shareholder. So it's owned by the shareholders. And the shareholders range from 7 to infinity, as we have said. That is, no maximum number. Number 2, a joint stock company has a legal entity. That means the ownership is separated from the company. For example, we have UTC. One person does not bear UTC. He is a company name. Even if the name of the manager, the managing director, or the manager of UTC is John, John does not come into this. The name is separated from the name of the owner. So, because it has so many people in that company, definitely you have the company. So it has a legal entity. It can be sued and can be sued. The company can sue a customer, or the customer can sue the company in the name of the company. That's why we say it is distinct from, separated from the owners. It has number 3, it has a perpetual existence. It can continue for as long as the company wishes. That is, the death of so many shareholders, or the death or withdrawal of so many shareholders, does not necessarily end or bring the company to an end. So it has a perpetual existence. As some are withdrawing from the company, some are willing or are buying shares willingly of that company, thereby becoming a shareholder of the company. It has, number 4, we say it has, another feature is that it has limited liability. What do you mean by limited liability? Limited liability means that the liability of the shareholders is only limited, mark the word, limited, to the amount of money they had invested in the company. For example, if Mr. Sonny bought shares of 2 million in the company, and miraculously or by carelessness, the company run aground. That means it's liquidated. They cannot. All Mr. Sonny, who has bought shares from that company, will lose. It's just the amount he had invested. He has spent in buying shares. His personal asset, his personal property cannot and will not be sold to repay any debt of the company. That's why we said it has a limited liability prospect. That is, his personal property will not be touched. Formation. A joint stock company requires a lot of process. It has to go through different stages with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Corporate Affairs Commission, who is mandated, Affairs Commission, who is mandated to look into their various books before the company is registered. And they had to go through certain formality. They have to present the following: article of association, memorandum of association, and all this must be submitted to the Corporate Affairs Commission before the company is registered. Why is this formation very, very important? Because it is important to give it a strong backing and to make sure that no duplicate. If you see UTC is UTC PLC, throughout the whole country, there will be only one UTC. A PLC. They may have branches in different parts of the country, in different states, in different locality or town. Or you see Zenith Bank PLC. It's the same big, strong, reliable Zenith Bank PLC, having different branches in different states or community or country. And that's why all this procedure must be, all these documents must be passed through the Corporate Affairs Commission before they are given the authority to go ahead and float the company. Another very important fact about the Corporate Affairs Commission is about the account. It is mandatory, it is a must that they must present, publish their annual statement of account, their annual account every year for everybody. Either you are a shareholder or you are not a shareholder, it must be published. And once you can read simple account statement, then you have preview an opportunity to know whether the company is doing very well or is swimming in muddy water. And then you can decide whether to invest in such a company or not. Then we say, finally, please take note, ownership is separated from management. We said that the company is owned by shareholders, but it is being managed by board of directors. Board of directors. So, the board of directors are elected or nominated or voted for to be on the management body. And they are separate individuals, separate group. So the shareholders are the owners of the company, but it is being managed by board of directors, which is normally elected at their annual general meeting, AGM, annual general meeting, and which we have to give record of their activity or performance every year to the at the AGM, either to merit renomination or to be removed from the management of the company. But it is a must. They must publish their account every year. For your assignment, you can read the advantages and disadvantages from your textbook, which are straightforward. By the time we meet, God willing, if there's any question, we will run through. I want to quickly move on to sources of finance before we round up for the day. What are the sources of finance? How do they get money for their operation or for their business trading or business activity? One, the first one is this company is allowed to take loan and overdraft from company, either commercial bank or development bank or specialized banks. They also have the opportunity to sell shares. A Dutch stock company can raise capital by selling or issuing shares to the public for subscription. Then, number three, they have the right to sell debenture. A debenture is like a loan obtained from the public. A debenture holder, please take note, does not take part in sharing of the profit. He is paid back on an approved interest rate, which have been approved by them. Then they can have bill of exchange. Then another source of finance is that equipment leasing. They can lease out if they have truck capital or heavy equipment. They can lease it out for a fee, and that amount is put back into the business. Again, every year, a joint stock company that makes good profit will set aside, and that's what we refer to as plowback profit. Part of the profit made in a year is set out or set aside in order to be put back either for expansion of the business and so on. Then we have trade credit. They can buy raw materials on credit, and when the things have been used for production, then they pay at a later date. Then they can go for hire purchase. Hire purchase means they can buy raw material or equipment and pay installmentally. Have a wonderful time. God bless you. Thank God we are here again for another wonderful time. We want to quickly finish with our limited liability company. And the last aspect we need to know is about shares. When we talk of shares, shares, we said, is the individual portion of the company's capital owned by a shareholder. If you remember in our previous lessons, we said that one of the ways the joint stock companies can raise capital is by selling shares. So what are shares? Shares is the individual portion of the company's capital owned by a shareholder. For example, if the company's capital, authorized capital, is 15 million naira, these are divided into units. Units which could be in the region of 50 naira or let's say 100 naira per unit, and any shareholder can buy as many in multiples. And so if Mr. Alade now decides that he wants to be a shareholder, he can buy 200 units at the rate, that is 200 of 100 naira each, that's times 100, this will give him, so he's having 20,000. So he has paid 20,000 to buy the share of that company, because by him buying 200 units at the rate of 100 at 100 naira per unit, that means that he has willingly given this company 20,000 of his own money to be used in their daily operation. So Mr. Ayinde is now a shareholder. That's why we said individual portion of the company. We can also look at it another way. We said share is the interest in a company. So Mr. Alade's interest in that company, in a company's share capital, that means he wants to be a party to the growth and development of that company. So he has given them his own money, so for the business. So of a member in this case, Mr. Alade, who is entitled to share in the income of such company. So when Mr. Alade has given the company 20,000, his money, he now becomes a shareholder, and he has the right, some right as a shareholder of that company. And these rights we want to quickly to know, we will look at as we move forward. To note, to be able to indicate that Mr. Alade is a shareholder, is issued a share certificate, evidence, document showing evidence that he is now a shareholder of that company. So we say share certificate. A share certificate is an evidence of share allotted to a shareholder. I repeat, a share certificate is an evidence of shares allotted to a shareholder. It states the number of shares allotted to the holder. It states the number of shares allotted to the. So in this case, Mr. Alade is allotted 200 units. And so the unit Mr. Alade has is 200 units. That will be indicated, will be shown in the share certificate. Allotted to the holder and shows the nominal value. The nominal value is of each share is 100 naira. So that's the nominal value of each share. And all the rights he has as a shareholder will be stated in the certificate. Okay? Let's look at the rights of shareholders. Number one. So under the heading, right of shareholders, right of shareholders, right of shareholders, rights of shareholders, right of shareholders. Number one, right to vote at meeting. Which meeting? At their AGM, at their annual general meeting. When if a shareholder will be given an invitation card will be sent to you to come and be a member at the meeting. So at that meeting, you have a right as a shareholder to vote. You can be voted for, and you can also vote. From number two, we said right to dividend. What is dividend? Dividend is a part of the profits which have been made, which have been divided among all the shareholders, depending on their category. And so you have right to take part in the dividend, that is, in the profit made by the company. Number three, we said that right to receive notice of general meeting. It is a must that shareholders will be sent a notice that there will be a general meeting, and it has the right to be there. At times you can, in some company, they don't allow you to bring a proxy. What's a proxy? That means if you are Mr. A is invited, now say, let my wife go. No. In some company, they allow you to come to send a proxy. If you cannot come to the meeting, your proxy can now, you can be represented at that company. Then number four, right to participate in the distribution of assets in the event of winding up. Those are the rights a shareholder has in any company that is a joint stock company. Then we said shares can, as we go on, we said shares can be divided into various categories. We have the ordinary shares, which is also known as equity share. Equity. In some textbook or in some question, they say, what is equity? Equity means shareholders. Okay, so you please take note. You find this in your objective questions. Often they say, what is equity? And then they give different options. Instead of saying ordinary shares, that's why they just say equity. So please don't be confused. Remember, we said that the shareholders are the real owners of the business, and they have the right to take part in the profit, which the profit are shared into different categories, Please take note. I said, when we were looking at the source of finance, we said debenture. A debenture holder is not a shareholder. A debenture holder is just like someone who has given his money to a company to say, trade with my money. And at the end of every year, I collect an interest. So a debenture holder has given his money as loan to the bank. He's not a shareholder. Hence, before the shareholders are paid any part of the profit, dividend, the debenture holder will be taken care of. They will be paid their interest before it now comes to the shareholders. Okay? And then we have all different categories of shareholders, which you don't need to. For further reading, you can check your textbook, page 130 to 131. Please reserve any question you have for your teachers when the school resumes. Have a wonderful time. God bless.